Thanks so much, Jason. Switching gears towards some San Diego controversy, San Diego Unified School District rolling out new paperwork this week addressing student gender identity. Here with us is Jim Miller, president of the Cajon Valley Union School District. Jim, thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning on this Sunday morning.
Okay, so break this topic down for me. What is it that San Diego Unified is doing here?
So San Diego Unified, as we take a look at, they've developed this form. And what the form basically says is if a little boy or girl has an issue, say they're having a bad day, and they want to discuss gender dystopia with them, well, fill out this form, and we're going to get you these services through the school and perhaps throughout, not within the school, and we're not going to tell your parents about it. So that is a very, very forward pushing this whole concept onto these kids versus the kid coming to, or the student coming to a teacher, or coming to a counselor and saying, Miss Smith, my teacher, Mr. Smith, my counselor, I have an issue associated with, I want to be called something different. I want to use a different pronoun. That's very different than what San Diego Unified is doing. San Diego Unified at this point is now pushing almost an indoctrination on what's going on with these kids. And when you take a look at how that's really to be evaluated, you don't lose your parental rights when you send your kids to public school. And that's exactly what San Diego Unified seems to be pushing through this new form and through their program.
Now, talk about how this is different than what the law is as far as what California has deemed to be the law on this concept.
Right, so the law is unfortunately fairly clear when it says if a student goes to a teacher, if a child or a student goes to a counselor and says, I would like to be identified as a different pronoun, I am having a gender issue, I'd like to, if I'm a boy, I'd like to be identified as a girl in school. Well, those in Sacramento have made the decision without the law that we're going to now have to follow that and not disclose to parents. That's a Sacramento issue. Keep in mind, school boards don't make law, but school boards implement law. So San Diego Unified in this situation is implementing something, being proactive instead of reactive. And I think that that's the disconnect. San Diego Unified should not be proactively searching to try to have these kids have an issue. If they come to them, it's very different. Now, we take a look. What is the big issue that they're currently saying? They're saying, well, these kids, they're scared of their parents. They may have physical violence take place to them if their parents know. So that's why they don't want the parents to find out. There's a disconnect there. So my background is I'm a family law attorney.
Yeah.
If a student goes to a counselor, goes to a teacher, goes to the vice principal, and says, Mr. or Miss Smith, I'm scared at home. I'm scared of physical violence from my parents at home. Regardless of the reason,
right,
we're mandatory reporters.
Yeah.
What that means is we need to contact Child Welfare Services, and Child Welfare Services then does an investigation as to whether or not that family or that home is in fact dangerous for the child. So this concept that simply disclosing to the parent who has the parental rights of these children, whether or not the child has in fact said, I want to be called a boy or a girl when it's the other gender, that makes no sense to me. Because there's no actual proof, none, there's no empirical evidence that creates a hostile environment in the home. And if it does, then CWS would have to be involved.
Now, have you had reaction? Have you had parents reach out to you this week because of this topic?
Oh, this is one of the hot button topics, I think, statewide when it comes to school board members. Chino right now, Chino Unified, they changed their protocol to be proactive in how they disclose to parents. And what happened? Robert Bonta, the Attorney General for the state of California and the DOJ, he's using the entire state's weight to sue Chino. We're all going to have to see how that plays itself out. Temecula Valley has had their own issues where Gavin Newsom has tweeted to them and then fined them I think it was $1.5 million of their state funding. So no, this is an issue that's right at the forefront for everybody in the state on school boards. But it still comes back to parental rights over the education of your children and over the raising of your children. It seems as though the concept in Sacramento has been you send your kids to public school, well, it takes the village, right? The Hillary Clinton comment, and it really doesn't. It goes back to parental rights. In this state, coming back to my day job as a family law litigator, you don't lose your parental rights unless there is a court determination that you lose your parental rights. Unless you go to court, you have a constitutional right to how your children are raised and how they're to be educated and to how they're going to believe and whether they play sports or whether they don't play sports. It's not up to the government, which a local school agency is, right? LEA, Local Education Association. It's not up to us to push onto this child, what's your gender? They also hide behind this concept, and I say they being the folks in Sacramento and San Diego Unified at this point in time, well, it's a child privacy right. Well, is it? If you're now asking the child proactively, how do you want to be called? You're now invading that child's privacy to maybe not tell you. So that argument has two sides to the coin.
Well, Jim Miller, we appreciate you joining us, and obviously this is a hot button issue and one I have a feeling we'll continue to have conversations on. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
All right.